Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the IronSquid and a fresh group. We're going now on to the final group of this group stage of the tournament. Two of these guys are going to join 6 fantastic players in the round of 8, and 3 will be going home with nothing. Nothing! My name is Total Biscuit.
And I am D Apollo.
And what a fantastic set of matches we have. We generally have fantastic matches. That is the nature of this tournament. We've got some amazing players, and ergo, we get some fantastic lineups.
Yeah, I mean, we already have Marine King Prime and Puma advancing from Group A, MC Symbol from Group B, and then MMA and Jack G in Group C. And today, we have Leenock, Nerchio, Nestea and HasuObs, and of course, Fanatics Alive, fighting for those 2 spots to advance through from Group D.
Well, the good news for those of you who don't want a Terran-dominated round of 8 is that there's only the possibility of one Terran advancing, since there is only one Terran in the group. And he may not even get there, considering the strength of the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a possibility for him to get through, and I'm a bit of a fan of Alive, so I think he can, but he has to face up against Leenock and Nestea, and then he always has a very strong Zerg versus Terran within Nerchio. HasuObs may be his easiest game here, I feel, but still, the other players are going to go through. I mean, we have Codes champion, we have Nerchio, Nestea. I mean, this group is, again, a strong group, but also a very dynamic group because of the amount of Zerg players that we have in here.
Yeah, and it's going to involve a lot of ZVZ, needless to say, which is a mirror that I do enjoy watching. It's one of my favorite mirrors in terms of the pace of it. It's always very, very fast, and you generally don't get really long ZVZ games unless, of course, something goes wrong.
Yes. Usually they are pretty fast, especially with the map pool that we have. They are more aggressive Zerg versus Zerg maps, that's for sure. And looking on today's games, we do have game number 1 being HasuObs versus Alive, of course, a Protoss versus Terran. Then we will have a Zerg versus Zerg, Leenock versus Nerchio. Wow. And then finally, Nestea versus Alive, another fantastic Zerg versus Terran.
Yeah, it's going to be great, honestly. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of this group, and it really is all to play for as well. You got 2 really high-level foreign players, and Nerchio is probably known a bit more than HasuObs, but HasuObs keeps getting into these tournaments, man. He does, and he performs well within them. He is no pushover.
No, he's not, and he definitely has to pull out his A game if he has any hope of going through here. It's going to be a very difficult group for him, and as I said on the last show, I'm very interested to see how Nerchio is going to do now in this kind of environment with 3 top-level Koreans, and I'm sure that he will, love to play against HasuObs, who potentially could be the weakest link within this group, but Nerchio has to perform against the best players in the world here, and he hasn't really shown good results against Koreans before, but this is certainly an opportunity to push any form of hate, any doubters, that he can go and compete at the highest level.
Yeah, it really is an opportunity for him, and it's an online tournament, and Nerchio is known as the terror of online tournaments. He was for a very long time, and he had some issues here and there with his performance in actual live LAN events.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he has won Battle in Berlin, was the biggest thing he's won, and he's done okay in a couple of the results, but he hasn't brought out anything outstanding, anything to the quality of Codes wins, such as, not even just Codes wins, but we also have Alive finishing in the semi-final of the GSL as well.
Yeah, these guys are not to be screwed around with, honestly, and there are some arguments that the dominance of Nestea is starting to come to an end. We've seen the dominance of several players brought to an end in this very tournament, and the state of GSL at the moment has got champions going down to Code A pretty much on a daily basis.
Yeah, and this could be one, where we see top players drop out, despite being two GSL champions, 1 MLG champion. And European champions as well, and German champion. There's champions everywhere, but, there's only 2 that can advance through.
Yeah, that's true. So I think before we go on, we should have a look at what's been going on in the previous group, because that sets up the round of 8 quite nicely. So here's a little roundup in video form of what happened previously on IronSquid. There you go, folks. That's what happened previously on IronSquid, but we're going to focus on what is going to go on today. And the first game is going to be Fanatics Alive versus Mousesports HasuObs.
And this is going to be a very interesting Protoss versus Terran. Two different styles going against each other. We have HasuObs, the German, more passive player, always looking to take the game late and win in the late stages, compared to Alive, who's consistently aggressive, will drop on multiple fronts and hit perfect timings over and over and over, and is relentless with that aggression. So it'll be good to see how this does play up. And of course, we do have, you could argue German's best player, arguably alongside Soke, but Alive, Fnatic superstar, and he's been getting better and better as time gone on. He started really low in the GSL and has now worked his way up, where he went to the semi-final level and has continued to show performance after performance.
Yeah, and he's been smacking people around in terms of online tournaments. This year alone, he took first place in the ESV TV Korean Weekly. It's a 4-1 against Tasia, I might add, which is nothing to be sniffed at. And he did, as you mentioned, really well in the January Code S. The NASL Season 3 qualifier, he goes 3-2 against Polt, and he even ended up beating Seed in the March Raid Call Invitational number 2. He's not messing around online, and he is looking to dominate here.
Yeah, his best matchup by far has always been Terran versus Terran. He's just shown complete domination in that matchup. But his versus Protoss is just as good. It's very, very strong here. And I do believe that HasuObs is going to be in for a rough time. Of course, depending on the maps and how well he's personally performing. But, HasuObs has always come out with surprising results against players that are not as good or on his level. So I am interested to see how HasuObs can play up against a player such as Alive.
Alive is so monstrous and international, he really is. You can look at the statistics, and 2 of the 3 matchups are above 70% win ratio. And even his versus Protoss, which is statistically his weakest matchup, is 69.44% at the time of this broadcast. That's terrifying.
Yes, absolutely, and I do believe that Alive is going to be a contender. As rough as this group looks on paper, I do believe he's a contender for the entire tournament, not just to advance through the group.
It's very true. Well, we don't want to keep you waiting any longer with this fantastic matchup coming up right now, and we certainly don't want to delay the rest of the matchups that are also going to be amazing in this particular show. So, without further ado, let's kick it off here with Alive versus HasuObs. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome right here to the Tal'Darim Altar, and this game between Mousesports HasuObs. He is in the yellow trunks, and he is playing Protoss to the southwest of this particular map. The man whose name has many pronunciations, and I'm pretty sure I get them wrong every time, versus his opponent, much easier. It's Fanatics Alive. He is in the purple trunks and he is playing Terran to the southeast.
Mousesports HasuObs has been struggling against Terran players recently. He has had inconsistent results against European Terrans, and they are nothing like Korean Terrans. Korean Terrans are so much more scary. They, like I said earlier, they drop on multiple fronts. They have the timings nailed down, and there's no really weakness in their overall gameplay because they're very strong at microing units. They're very strong at microing and handling their production in the background and how they expand, and they are never slow in upgrades. So this is going to be, and I do believe that HasuObs is going to be the underdog here and has to pull something out special here. Make sure if he is going to play a more defensive, passive style, that he doesn't fall down to any drops, that he stops every single one, and then play to the late game, which has always been his strength.
Yes, this is very true. A late-game player, he was originally known for throwing a lot of Dark Templar into his army and actually using them like that, but he's been doing less of that lately. He is certainly not averse to DT play. It can catch people out of position, but at the moment, it's more of a case of surviving the attacks that Alive will obviously end up throwing at him.
And we do have, of course, both players going out and scout. And oh, wait a minute, what is this? He's putting down a barracks here for Alive, so we're going to have a 2 barracks aggression. It's not super heavy. He hasn't cut SCVs at all, so this may be a little bit misleading for HasuObs as he enters the base because the SCV count, has not changed a single bit here. It's completely normal, so he doesn't know if this is a hidden barracks or if it's just the regular Terran play of a 1 barracks expansion.
Yeah, I love it, because it even gets the command center down at the regular timing. It goes down at 16 supply. This does not look remotely unusual at all. And in reality, the only thing that was really slowed down there was the supply depot. And I don't think HasuObs is going to pick up on that. He is scouting around a little bit. Let's see where he decides to go with this probe.
Yeah, he should just be going back.
Yeah, he's going back. There's no way.
Going back. And HasuObs has no idea this is actually going down. I mean, if he counted SCVs exactly, and this is something you just can't drag a box and count them, you have to go and count them. He could have noticed one SCV was missing, and it wasn't the scouting SCV, because Alive sent out a dummy scout SCV there. But HasuObs has definitely not picked up on this. As you can see, he's throwing down the Nexus now nice and early, before Cybercore research, before a Stalker. So he's actually playing into the hands of Alive a little bit here.
Yeah, this is going to make things a bit difficult for HasuObs to deal with, and the aggression may not kill him. It's not really designed to do that. It is just naked Marines from 2 racks, but it is designed to do damage.
It is. I mean, it can be very heavy, especially if he decides to pull SCVs, for example, or something along those lines, or even just a few SCVs. Because if he lands down a bunker on the natural, or even inside the main, if he allows to get that far, he could do considerable amounts of damage. But HasuObs is going to have his first Stalker up coming soon, and he will be able to get a second and third one if this kind of aggression does come. And oh my god, looking in the main base of Alive, he's actually pulling every single SCV. No, actually leaving a single SCV, but pulling so many here. That's 20 SCV. No, 18 SCVs he's pulled.
Well, he's all in at this point. There's no real question about that. Losing that many SCVs is an all-or-nothing attack, but he also did it after he cleared the Xel'Naga Watchtower. This is the terrifying thing about this. HasuObs has no idea to the extent of this. Now he does. He sees a train of SCVs, and then he must be thinking, oh, you can't be serious.
Yeah, and with this amount of SCVs, you don't even care about the natural, because you're going for the kill, not to try to stop his natural expansion. So the bunker's going to go down here. Yes, the Zealot gets a kill, but it gets surrounded. Oh. And oh my god, he's in so much trouble here.
This is going to be a fairly short game by the looks of it. The Stalker takes a horrendous amount of damage in the process. HasuObs not able to micro out of that, but gets caught completely off guard by that. We're now seeing Warp Gate coming in. He hasn't actually even turned these other 2 to Warp Gates. Now he's finally doing so, but he pulls all his probes in the process. 1 pylon is down, 2nd pylon is very close to going down. That'll depower at least 2. It depowers the whole lot, good lord. He manages to get a warp in just before that happens, but a bunker is now up, and well, this is an interesting start to the series, I've got to say.
Yeah, and that bunker's not going to go down with that many SCVs. He's going to have to pull probes and just attack. He's trying to, mine a bit more money. Maybe he can add on a Zealot or 3 Zealots very shortly to try to just go for a last-ditch effort here. He has enough money for it, but that is it. Let's see how he's going to do this.
Bit by bit. This is exactly how he's going to do it, bit by bit. And Alive is just pressuring now on that Cybernetic score. Takes it down to under 100 HP. The bunker can now focus fire on it, so no Stalkers coming out for him now. It's all going to be down to how well he can control the Zealots that he brings in there, and also the probes he's now bringing off the line. There are some Marines actually coming across because, hey, mules are great, right? And he can't... Can he keep the bunker up? No, he cannot. But he is able to break out of there. But look at that. The Marine count's at 16. There's no way in a million years HasuObs holds this, surely.
Yeah, I mean, the Stalkers are already low health, and so careful. The probes, though, try to get us around on the Marines, get immediately insta-gibbed there.
Well, there's the GG, and not a great start at all here for HasuObs, who gets completely all in by Alive.
Yeah, and wow, Alive's like, well, this tournament, this French tournament, I just want to go really fast into the late stages of it. I don't really want to mess around in the groups, and he picks up an incredibly fast, explosive win there, and not looking so good for the German.
Nope. He did really just get torn apart, and that's a good start here, certainly for Alive, just thinking, well, you know what? I'm not concerned about someone of this level. I'm just going to demolish him. I'm going to all-in him. Maybe he does it again as well. I don't want to play a long game with him. And we've said many times before that Koreans don't necessarily know their opponents all that well. But I would like to point out that Alive does play in an awful lot of online tournaments as well as foreign cups and is part of a foreign team. So I don't think that really exists here so much for Alive. Perhaps he knows exactly that HasuObs is the kind of player that loves to play for the late game and just said, well, you know what? I have no intention of letting you do that.
Yeah, that could be the case here, and he played perfectly there. Play to the map, play to how Protoss should play, and especially HasuObs, who never is going to be doing anything early, is always going to try to look and play macro rather than early aggression. So picks off a perfect start there to Group D.
Yeah, and the Protoss are now raging. I can read the forum posts right now, but an unfortunate start for HasuObs. Will he be able to come back? Well, we're going to find out very shortly after this commercial break, folks. You're currently watching the IronSquid, is brought to you by Twitch.tv and Astro Gaming. Don't go anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this series between the man with many names. Or at least that's what I like to think. It's HasuObs. He is in the Yellow Trunks playing for Team Mouse Sports, playing Protoss to the south of Terminus. Big surprise, he picks a large map versus his cheesy opponent. It is a Fnatic Alive. He is in the purple trunks playing Terran to the west.
And he could do something aggressive again on this map, but Terminus is such a big map that it is a little bit of a gamble, where your opponent spawns. As you can spawn anywhere on this 4-player map, and Alive probably will play more straight up, but this map again probably loses pick, and probably HasuObs is like, yep, straight to Terminus, as this is a more favored Protoss map, because the end goal and the way that you should play this matchup is I'm going to go on 3 bases pretty fast, of course, but I need to defend really easy across multiple fronts. And on this map, it's very easy to do so, especially because there's that only one walkway towards the natural, which opens up the main natural and third via walking. So he only needs to concentrate in small amount of areas to actually establish a 3 saturated working base.
Yeah, that's true. And Alive will be forced to actually play a game that lasts longer than 7 minutes. I'm sure he'll be able to manage it, though.
Yeah, I'm sure he will, and I really doubt to see gas early on. I feel that he'll just be going for 1 barracks command center, which he's queuing up SCVs to do so here. And from here on out, Alive, if he does play more standard straight up, is pretty much a regular Terran versus Protoss player, where he'll go for the expansion, then enter the double barracks, then double refinery, and just kind of tech up from here, getting stim into combat shields and so on.
Yep.
Potentially we could see a fast third base also from Alive playing towards the map, unless he wants to play aggressive, as the destructible debris does take a while to get beaten down by just a handful of Marines, so...
Yeah, that's very, very true. The destructible debris in this version of Terminus, there is no back rock access there whatsoever. Something to continue to bear in mind. HasuObs has gone in completely the wrong direction, which is hardly his fault, but that's the nature of Terminus, and also one of the reasons why a big aggressive all-in at the start is quite risky, because you might not find your opponent.
And Alive knows the probe was up there now, so actually he can, if he wants to take a risk, actually scout straight south now, because the distance, you can actually, as a player, know the timings of where the probe is meant to be, depending on when they send it. So I'm not expecting Alive to go to the right-hand side of this map and just go straight down. But that's, of course, if he wants to take the risk, because maybe your opponent does send it out a little bit later, and that that risk is then, of course, not paid off. But we do see the standard 1 command center coming down here for Alive, and HasuObs, of course, is going to play his usual style.
Yep, 2nd and 3rd barracks also being added on by Alive. Alive aggressively denied the scout. He was able to catch it out, and it didn't get anywhere near the base. So there's no confirmation for HasuObs as to anything other than the location of his opponent. And that's not exactly a great start. He's going to have to make some assumptions, and I don't think that's a very good idea against Alive.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing completely in the dark now until the Zealot and Stalker get out on the map. This is when you can scout. The only danger with doing this is if you walk into a trap with about 8 Marines, 10 Marines or so on, but this is not the case here, and he's going to be able to see the bunker and know exactly what's going on.
Yep, that's always good. Alive once again aggressively pushing out here, doing just a little bit of damage, but of course he will take damage in return. He can get back to the bunker without a problem, but Stalker's actually just going to go right past it there. He wants to confirm that command center is there. He does so and is able to get out.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did there. He was just run past the bunker, see the command center, alright, cool, there's no hidden barracks, it's not a fake bunker, this is actually real.
Yep.
And so therefore HasuObs now is feeling a lot more comfortable, because he knows aggression won't come until roughly the 6-minute, 37-minute mark, where we may see a handful of Marines come out, but until then, he doesn't really need to build any units unless he wants to be aggressive. He can focus on his pro production, focus on, of course, getting that natural saturated and up and running.
Yeah, we'll see how that one goes for him. He's also put down an aggressive pylon here, which is a nice, interesting choice there by HasuObs. So he is at least opening up an option for a little bit of pressure here and there. He does have 3 gates, so he could start to plink away at that. And, of course, if a push ends up coming, then he may be able to warp in behind it, catch it out of position, which is actually kind of what he's looking to do at the moment. He's got 3 Stalkers now warping into the top, and it looks like he is trying to draw Alive out of position so that he can get a flanking maneuver, which is exactly what he does. Nice little execution. 2 Marines down, 3. Oh, he takes a 4th as well. This is really nice. A great start here from HasuObs.
Really good start, but he's not going to really break through the bunker, but he can definitely target down SCVs, which he tries to do there. More units are coming in. 2 Zealots and a Stalker do join the fray here, and he's going to continue with this aggression. But as long as there's the SCVs here and even a second bunker coming down, he can't really break through, but he can definitely pick off the repairing SCVs. Yeah,
and the fact of the matter is those SCVs aren't mining, so in doing this, as long as he doesn't lose too many units, he is doing immense economic damage to his opponent. There's a couple of Marauders out right now, which makes this Stalker aggression a bit of a dicey prospect, and he knows that, but HasuObs got great control as always, and he is able to do significant damage. We can already see that he's picked off 5 SCVs and forced a bunch more not to mine.
And upon seeing the Marauder count, he knows that he can't overstay here, because the Marauder's coming 2 by 2, which means, of course, there's 2 tech labs, which means combat shields and stim is being researched at the same time. So he can or should be wanting to back off, which he is doing now. He's morphed in some sentries in his main base, more defensive, and now thrown down the robotics facility and also additional gateways. So he could continue to be aggressive from here on out, because usually if you want to play more passively, you'd now go back and now kill the rocks. But adding on a robotics facility and gateways is either A, very, very scared about this follow-up push coming, that he wants to just crush it as soon as he comes, or B, he wants to follow up with aggression, adding in, of course, an Observer first, but then Immortals.
Yeah, and an early Ghost Academy coming down for Alive here. An interesting decision, I've got to say. We've got the Concussive Shell just queued up after that Stim. Stim and Combat Shield are now done. There is a push across the map, which is quite Marauder heavy.
Yeah, and this is weird that he's gone for the Ghost. It is a very big risk to go for the Ghost. It's just a calculated risk, because first of all, he knows that, okay, well, 9 times out of 10, nobody's really going early Colossus anymore, because first of all, Stim, you can Stim up and almost pick it off early on, and then the switch over to Vikings is usually pretty easy. So he's just kind of banking on HasuObs playing an Immortal style or Double Forge Zealot heavy style. And calculated risk means that most of the times he's going to be right here by going for the Ghost, which he is in this scenario too. So we do have the first Immortal coming out too. All 4 gases taken. There's a bunch of Chrono Boost available here for HasuObs too, and it looks like he is just posturing up to get ready to deal with this counter push which is coming, and then go on the offensive straight after it.
Let's see how well he can execute that, more to the point. Alive is preparing to go. He's got these 2 Ghosts at the back here. They will each have an EMP available. Well, it depends. I mean, this is a narrow choke to engage into. EMP becomes more effective as a direct result. He lands the scan. If HasuObs is spread out, and that should be good for him. He now knows that the Ghosts are there. They haven't done anything just yet. He doesn't have an opportunity, really, to land a really good EMP, and HasuObs is playing patiently, but he is taking damage as a result.
And the robotics pay is down. He's trying to buy time to get that out, really. And he does have a lot of force fields available. And as long as he is spread out, which he is, he should be fine here. He warps in 2 more sentries because he really is trying to buy time to get that Colossus out. He realizes that, of course, Ghosts are very strong against what he has right now. But that means the factory is delayed. The starport is also delayed, which means Colossus are going to come a lot more into play.
Yeah, and the Ghosts end up doing pretty much nothing here. HasuObs deals with that extremely well. Great defense there by him. And he's now in a good spot. He has a ton of Chrono Boost, actually, to the point where I'd even say he needs to start spending a little bit of it, because Chrono Boost doesn't bank up after 100, so there's little point. But he is worried about aggression. Needless to say, his Observer is now only just moving across the map.
Yeah, he's got it banked up, but he will be spending it in the double forges very shortly here, so he can just ramp up the upgrade, because he has delayed the upgrades by quite a lot. It's 12 minutes, and the first forges are now just completing, so he should be going straight into that, upgrading both of them at the same time here. And he is taking a 3rd base too, which is, of course, the perfect thing to do here. Now sitting back in a more defensive style, understanding that this is how I need to play on this map. Sit back, defend against any aggression, defend against drops, and start to build that death ball, that unbeatable force.
Yep, and the scan lands down right on top of the Colossus here, so Alive now knows, well, I'm against Colossus here. Unfortunately, my starport was later, but I've still got to get the medivacs out. I can't go without them. So how many of these Vikings can I actually get out in order to deal with this Colossus scout?
Yeah, and because it's late, he's a little bit scared of two things that... well, he's scared of one thing, sorry. That he's scared about a push coming out with a couple of Colossus here, which it seems to him it's happening, and Alive is caught out of position here, but manages to stay and run away just in the nick of time. But now he is really panicking because he thinks this is a two-base push. He sees a probe too, but there is a third base in the background here, so it's a little bit of an illusion. But now he's going to be really screaming, why don't I have Vikings?
Yep, and he doesn't at the moment. He doesn't have a single Viking to his name, and this Colossus can go in there with impunity. There's no way they're going to be able to stim through that. EMP hits a lot of sentries there. That was a really nice start there for Alive, so at least the Ghosts are now finally coming into play.
And 1-1 is near completion for HasuObs, so he's going to do a lot of damage here. He doesn't intend to kill Alive, but if he can, of course, he's going to go for it. And we do have the upgrade's just about to finish. Zealot Charge on the way. Another Colossus coming too. And what was that then that just blew up?
That was a ghost. He just let a ghost die, which was really weird. He looked like he actually set off an EMP to hit an observer, but he wasn't able to actually kill it. And now that means that this was just a free ghost, and I can't think that HasuObs will be complaining about that. He's got to worry about that one right there with the EMP. There's now 4 Vikings on the field here. This is a nasty-looking death ball. The army supply count is incredibly even. Upgrades-wise, though, the Protoss is looking good with an edge in terms of armor.
Only an edge, though, for about 10-15 more seconds, though. The Vikings have to be so careful, cannot take damage from these Stalkers. It's so tense right now. If he loses the Vikings, it is almost GG now, and that +1 armor is about to finish. 1-1 upgrades for both of these guys now, and he's trying to keep that turret alive, too, with 3 SCVs, and he's slowly building the Viking count up high enough to push HasuObs back.
I'm very surprised that HasuObs didn't actually go in there and kill off the turret, because he placed the force fields for that very reason. He's actually managed to get a few Zealots down into the third base that is trying to beat up on that, and then here comes this big engagement. The force fields go down, Colossus are being felled at a fairly rapid rate, but not fast enough to stop them from doing immense damage to Alive's army. However, the stim forward's what's going to really hurt here. He needs more force fields than that. He doesn't have any. The sentry energy is all gone, and Alive throws that back.
Yeah, very, very patient play here by Fanatics Alive, and he's chasing this army down, and HasuObs overstayed there. With only 2 Colossus and like 8 to 10 Vikings, the Colossus will go down fast, and a few stimmed units now are chasing the back of the army here, and do pick off an additional couple of Stalkers, and now the counterattack is available, but with a lot of force fields and units here, HasuObs should be fine to push this back.
What I'm worried about is the fact that while he's got a lot of sentries, he doesn't have a lot of energy at all, and maybe he's got enough to force field off once, but probably not any more than that. So if Alive continues to add on the pressure, it could be problematic. Alive is overstimming his army quite significantly, however. His medevac count is at 4, but they're not actually with that part of the army.
And there is the drop in the main base at the same time here, killing a bunch of probes here from Alive, and that was really nice, pushing HasuObs all the way back and then counter-dropping into his main base. So really, really nice play there by Alive. He's going to pick up and leave at the same time, but HasuObs is on the back foot here. 2-2 upgrades do finish for him, and it looks like Alive is a little bit slow. Look at that, the Engineering Bay and Army only just now coming down, and we saw the timing of when +1 armor finished, but because of the amount of pressure that he was under, he wasn't strict on his build. Unfortunately for him, that's going to hurt quite a bit in the long term here, but he did manage to pick off the Nexus inside the main base of HasuObs, which is of course a good win.
Yeah, that's going to really hurt the gas income of HasuObs, and more to the point, he did kill a lot of probes as well. 48 probes to 62. On 3 Nexus, of course, you can get that back pretty fast, but he's only on 2 at the moment, so that's also going to force him perhaps to spend quite a lot of chrono boost to get that count back up.
And the Viking count not quite high enough because the Colossus count is still building. Colossus now currently at 2, a third one in on the way. 5 Vikings out, but the scary thing here, which is the advantage that HasuObs is going to take and win with, is the 3-3 that's being constructed right now. If he manages to get to 3-3 without taking any significant losses from this drop, of course, on the right-hand side, then he can push with a very, very strong little timing here. But in comes this drops, and HasuObs is out of position here.
Yeah, and this is the thing about the Colossus Death Ball, is that it can be pulled apart by this kind of thing. It doesn't have a lot of mobility, so you can exploit that, and he's going to do so by pushing forward with his main force here to try and draw his opponent out of position, and then go in with this force. And wow, HasuObs' army is not close enough to that to actually stop significant damage being done, and he's got a great evacuation plan as well. He's already gets the pick up there, and he gets out without losing anything, really.
Yeah, and there was no Stalkers there, so Sentry is tickling these Medivacs who escape very, very easily there, but still this +3/3 is on the way. He needs to keep chrono boosting it. He is getting Storm at the same time too here, but instead of chrono boosting, well, actually I was going to say, instead of chrono boosting the Forge, alongside chrono boosting the Forge, he is getting the probes out, because he has lost to a lot to harassment, but he's going to have such a good, strong upgrade advantage here that he can really push Alive back from this map control that he has sustained in the center.
Oh man, look at the production of Alive though. He's on 12 racks at the moment. It's pretty crazy. He's also adding on a couple of extra command centers to back this up, and his upgrades are starting to catch up. So it is this big window for HasuObs. Can he get the maxed out Death Ball with +3/+3, and can he get a good engagement without being torn to pieces by the drops from Alive in the process?
The really, really difficult thing that's going to happen soon for Alive is, will he be able to control his army perfectly against what HasuObs has? Because HasuObs has Stalkers going to hit Vikings, he's going to have Storm, he's going to have Colossus, Zealot Charge, Sentries, and all of these abilities is going to make it very, very difficult. Actually, hold that thought. A little bit of a drop on that third base again, but is picked up and warded away. But this is the time where it does become difficult for Terran in the recent metagame, where they are struggling against this Death Ball Protoss army.
Yeah, the most worrying thing is as well, there's 2 Medivacs worth of units that are not in this fight, and they're stuck. They're not going to be able to get there in time. Yes, he can drop them in here and do some damage, but it just means the army is smaller, and he's going up against such a better upgraded force. 2-2 is about to kick in, and we've even got Cloak coming in for the Ghosts as well, but that still puts him 2 upgrades behind his opponent.
Yeah, this is really, really tough here for Alive. He's getting pushed back now because of this upgrade advantage. 5 High Templar, there's more, though. There's 5 Storms available here, and as long as he doesn't get EMP'd in a big clump, he's going to be really good clearing out these SCVs. That drop is landing back on the third base of HasuObs, who is currently maxed out. He doesn't have anything to warp in to defend here. A single Zealot, the 2 supply allowed to warp in, and HasuObs, oh, this is so bad.
It really is, because he can't warp in. He is in a horrible spot of having to bring his entire army back, which just throws that window completely out of the window. It's windowception. It's horrendous. And unfortunately, HasuObs didn't get the opportunity he wanted. He's now pushing out again, but Alive's bought more time.
Yeah, he has, and now he has Cloak finished for his Ghost. There's only 1 Observer with HasuObs' army now. If he manages to scan and snipe it with the Viking count, which he has, is like 12 here, then he can just Cloak, go in, and EMP, and start sniping and shooting everything here. And this could be very dangerous here for HasuObs, but at the same time, he does have a lot of Storms still available. Almost 2 Storms per High Templar now, a total of 10. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's very, very true. A missile turret goes down, so the risk perhaps of that Observer running into it. HasuObs being very, very careful with this thing. A scan goes down. Does it see the Observer? No, it does not. That is out of position at the moment, and the aggression now coming down on all of the production facilities clustered around the third base. But time ticks away, man. There's 100 seconds left for that. The Ghosts come in. The Observer actually out of position, but wow, they've sniped the Observer. No, they haven't. The Observer isn't down. It runs right into a Storm there, but unfortunately, it looks like HasuObs just took a crushing blow. He loses a bunch of Colossi, and he does have some Storms available. Maybe that's enough to rip through Alive's army. Quickly dodges out of the way of it. Another Storm ends up missing there, but HasuObs is not doing the damage he wants, and his force is severely depleted.
But he does have a 4th base established, though, so he's going to continue to keep his income high. The main base and Natural have mined out here for Alive, so as long as HasuObs keeps this kind of containment without losing all his army, he's going to be able to reinforce this over and over again here. He still has 2 Storms available, and the Viking count is very, very damaged, having to be repaired right now, and that's money Alive can't really afford to spend.
That's true. There's 11 Vikings, and there are no Colossi, honestly, so that's actually pretty much dead supply. The 3-3 is about to kick in here for Alive, though, so HasuObs has got to be a little bit careful. The worst thing that can happen to him here would be that he gets completely caught out by counter surge there from Alive and gets his army ripped to shreds.
And the drop in the main base, killing a lot of pylons here, is going to target down that Nexus again. And Alive, understanding that he's contained, he drops again, and there was no supply that HasuObs could warp in with. Excellent, excellent drop here.
Yeah, it doesn't bother picking off the Nexus because really, there's nothing left to actually mine from it, whatever the case. But he does shut down a lot of warp gates, which means that HasuObs' army, regardless of him having 4 bases, is still going to be slower to replenish.
And these Vikings need to get off the ground, man. They're otherwise, well, actually, there's actually no Colossus at all.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't realize that. So this is actually fine. And let's have a look at HasuObs' army. He does not even have that many storms available. He has 7 high Templars somewhere on this map, and they're all on his 4th base by the looks of it, just getting warped in. Yeah. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of storm available. Ghosts have to be perfect, have to hit the snipe, have to EMP. They have to do so much here.
Yes, they do. The Nexus from HasuObs, stacked full of delicious Chrono Boost, ready to Chrono Boost into those gateways to get his army back up quicker. A massive Ghost count of 10 from Alive, who is establishing a base here and also has one all the way over the other side of the map. And HasuObs, not really the Warp Prism player, so there's really no chance of this force getting up there anytime soon.
And even the gateway count from HasuObs is very, very low here. It's only at like
11.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really low. Should be at like 16, 20 by now. And you can see that his money is incredibly, incredibly high, and to the point of where he won't be able to remax with a perfect 200 supply army after losing a fight here, especially because he's now mining from this 4th base. But his army is so strong here, and this is the point where it becomes very hard for Alive to take a solid, good engagement.
Yeah, he's also a sneaky little bugger because he's bringing the Dark Shrine in as well, and that's going to cause a few problems for Alive. It's not for Archons because, well, he's got Templar Archives, he could use those already, but unless, of course, he decides, no, that wouldn't work out either. But I am interested to see how effective that could really be. It's a very heavy Zealot force with a lot of upgrades and a ton of Storms. The Storms haven't done too much damage yet. He's trying to draw Alive out of position, and we've got this interesting posturing in the middle of the map.
Yeah, this is very, very tense right now, and
couple of Ghosts down. Well, traded for a single High Templar.
That's not too bad considering this, but the Dark Templar is going to be to harass these back expansions to really slow down the income, which is now skyrocketing for all these mules all over the place, mining from 2 separate bases now, and this is very careful. I'm surprised that we don't even have shield weapons being researched for HasuObs here, but looking to fight, looking to posture around.
Well, I guess with that many Ghosts in the background, really, having shields doesn't seem to make all that much of a difference, and I guess it wouldn't make all that much sense to HasuObs at this stage. If he's able to get rid of the Ghosts, and he gets another feedback, but there's the Sniper coming in as well, and the big charge and engagement is rapidly thrown back, and HasuObs taking quite a lot of damage, but he does draw the Vikings into a storm, and is able to reduce the Viking count significantly, and of course what he might look to do there is to transition, but there's a nice storm on the left flank, and he runs right into another one, and so many storms going down with HasuObs dealing significant damage. But if Alive just gets in there and actually just opens fire, horrible things could end up happening. However, because they're so stormed and so weak, HasuObs may be able to smash through them.
Yeah, and DT's in the mix there, trademark old school from HasuObs. They're doing a lot of damage, but these units are just too low health, and literally Stalkers and Zealots were one-shotting most of the army there and pushed him back. Supply is low, but DT's again being warped in here, 2 more, and he's going to have to try to do damage to these expansions, especially the top left there, and 1 DT is going straight there, another one probably into the 3rd base location area. He's trying to pick off these turrets and not allow them to go up.
Yeah, the thing is, HasuObs doesn't actually know about the top expansion. He has no information on that, so he's most likely to go here. And, well, he can have a little bit of fun. He's going to at least force some scans one way or the other. And in the meantime, another engagement. Unfortunately, just Stalkers. And Alive with just such a massive barracks count. He's on 15 barracks with a huge amount of reactors. He's producing tons of units, and he's able to replenish his army even faster than HasuObs can because of HasuObs' absurdly low gateway count.
Yeah, our German player Macro really slipping up now. Doesn't even have a second robotics facility here. And he's trying to switch over to Colossus because he killed every single Viking. But he's building the single Colossus at a time. The second robotics facility, just this second building, actually, as I say that. Because he needs to tech switch harder. And his Macro could be his downfall in this game.
It could. And that would be really unfortunate considering how many amazing engagements he's had up to this point. And he's been doing really well so far. But Just 11 gateways at 33 minutes in the game on Terminus on 4 bases. It's not the right number. Anyone can see that. And it's causing him a whole heap of problems. He's trying to spend his money and, more to the point, have the capability to reinforce. And now, as he's trying to expand, there's some drops coming down to the right-hand side of the map. We've got probes moving in here. This could actually be... This is a nasty anti-timing, actually. If he goes to place down the Nexus right now, then Alive will surely just jump right on it.
Yeah, he's going to just unload now and then try to stim and pick that off. And HasuObs has no idea. He's not really looking there because, of course, this is just shift-click command for these probes. And he goes in, stims to target the next down. Will he get the cancel in time?
Well, I certainly hope so. That would be unfortunate. There's the cancellation, so at least he saves a little bit of money there, but that's delayed the macro of his opponent, and another nice drop onto the 4th base that is not responded to fast enough. There was a High Templar there that could have responded with a Storm, but it just stood there, and more damage being inflicted here by Alive, who is starting to really pull his opponent to pieces.
Yeah, he really is, and we do see HasuObs now scouting the top left. He sees the command center flying. He also sees the other one on the lower ground. Starting to gain control of this game, HasuObs, but still is very difficult. Little drop is getting picked up by DT, so I don't think Alive really following that. But at the same time, HasuObs' army now very, very strong once again. Has a lot of High Templar and Colossus. The goal from Alive is just to get rid of the splash damage. As simple as that sounds, it's very difficult.
Indeed, we've got a Zealot now just harassing it. This is what's going to be happening from both sides. DT, Zealot harassment. Now, this place he could do some decent damage here right in the mineral line with that Dark Templar. And both of them just trying to pull each other to pieces and do damage to the economy so that the big push, when it comes, can be replenished faster than their opponent and he can go in for the win.
A little bit weird that Alive hasn't really upgraded his Vikings. They're only at 1-0 here, so they're not really going to do that much damage fast enough to the Colossus here. And combine that with Storm, you know, HasuObs just has a natural advantage in the overall fight here. Depending on, of course, if he doesn't make colossal mistakes, such as getting EMP'd or sniped with all his High Templar. And looks like he's moving up north, trying to catch these units out of position. Good Storms could come in here if he's careful, but nice little stim there to pick off those 2 High Templar.
Yeah, some good stuff coming in here from both players, honestly. A lot of ghosts there, but a big salvo of torpedoes coming off from that large count of Vikings, and huge amounts of damage being done to that Colossus. We've got HasuObs going under 180 supply and not really reinforcing just yet. A Storm goes down, doesn't really hit anything, though.
Yeah, it's so difficult for both of these players to actually engage. The defender always has position. And really nice snipes by these ghosts. Got to get back from the Colossus. And it looks like Alive is just fed up. He's going for it.
Yeah, and it's a good idea for him to do just that because he can really back this up. Whereas actually the economy of HasuObs is not in a great spot here. EMP's all over the place and a big stim right here by Alive. He absolutely crushes the main army of HasuObs, but a Warpin comes in to try and hold on. Is it able to? No, it is not. And Alive has got what he needs here to do unbelievable damage, even landing the Vikings now. A big Storm landing in the center of that ghost count, but it doesn't kill it. And the 4th now done, and that is the GG. And, well, it all ends in one big fight.
Yeah, a really, really good game there by Alive. And so passive between 2 players, but HasuObs did make mistakes throughout this game, I do believe. Alive did make a few as well, but still a very good game there by Alive, coming out with a very swift 2-0 in Group D, and once again, this is not looking good for the foreign players.
No, it's not. HasuObs played well in the second game, certainly. The first game, he didn't really have an opportunity to show anything because he pretty much got cheesed out of the game, but HasuObs did still play very, very well there. Unfortunately, Alive just on top of things all the time, and the harassment that came in, the number of probes killed, 61 by the end of it, to 27 workers. The macro is where it really counted because we can see that the gateway count was incredibly low. 11 gates for 37 minutes versus so many barracks. He was sitting on 15 racks as well as 2 starports. Really well played by Alive, but HasuObs unfortunately just not quite up to the task.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for him. He threw away so many units just by maneuvering around the map in the center that Alive is like, whatever, man, you just keep throwing units away at me. You're wasting so many Storms, and he just went for it at the perfect opportunity there. And, you know, perfect play from Fnatic Alive. And that's not the end of Alive, as I was trying to get out there, is that we will be seeing him play up against Nestea later on here today, but first of all, the next game before that happens is going to be a Zerg versus Zerg GSL champion versus arguably one of the better Zerg players in Europe, Nerchio.
Oh yeah, Leenock versus Nerchio is coming your way right after this, folks. Don't go anywhere.